3 days before Christmas, my phone buzzed with a group text from my parents. Family update. We think it's better if Paula doesn't show up this year. My stomach dropped as I watched the responses roll in. My brother Craig, my sister Allison, even my aunt Susan. 29 years of family Christmases, and suddenly I wasn't welcome. My fingers trembled as I typed my reply. Perfect. You won't see me again either. Then I did something that would change everything forever. I stared at my phone, barely registering that Drew had placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. We stood in the middle of a crowded mall, Christmas music blaring through speakers, shoppers bustling around us with armfuls of bags, but I felt completely alone. Jenna. What happened? Drew asked, his voice filled with concern. I couldn't even respond. I just handed him my phone, the family group chat still open, the thumbs up reactions from my family members glowing mockingly on the screen. Let me back up a bit. I'm Jana Matthews, 29 years old, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I've spent my entire life here, and for the past 4 years I've been teaching art at Riverside Elementary School. I love my job. There's something magical about watching children discover their creativity, seeing their eyes light up when they create something they're proud of. Until 2 years ago, everyone knew me as Paula Matthews. Paula was who I'd been for 27 years. A good daughter, a loving sister, a devoted wife to Tyler Wheaton. We married young, just after college. Tyler was charming, handsome, the kind of guy who could work any room. My family adored him from day one. My dad would always say, Tyler's the son I never had, despite having an actual son, my brother Craig. What nobody saw was how Tyler slowly changed once the wedding ring was on my finger. The criticism started, small comments about my appearance, my cooking, the way I spoke to people. Then came the monitoring of my friendships, my spending my time. By our 5th anniversary, I'd barely recognized myself. I'd become a shadow, constantly trying to anticipate his disapproval, walking on eggshells in my own home. When I finally gathered the courage to leave, Tyler made sure everyone heard his version first, that I was emotionally unstable, that I had issues, that he had tried everything to save our marriage. And my family, the people who had known me my entire life, believed him without question. The divorce was finalized 2 years ago, and I decided I needed a fresh start in every possible way. I legally changed my name from Paula to Jana, a symbolic shedding of the person I had been molded into during my marriage. It wasn't a random choice. Jana was my grandmother's name, a woman who had always stood her ground and lived life on her own terms. My family initially pretended to support the name change. Whatever helps you heal, honey, my mother had said with a tight smile. But they never stopped calling me Paula. At first I made allowances. It's a hard adjustment. They've known me as Paula my whole life. They'll get used to it eventually. But 2 years later the slip-ups continued, and I was beginning to suspect they weren't accidental at all. I'd been making progress though. Weekly sessions with Dr. Winters, my therapist, had helped me rebuild my sense of self. I'd reconnected with old hobbies, made new friends, and 8 months ago I met Drew. Drew Logan was nothing like Tyler. He was a middle school science teacher who loved bad sci-fi movies and making elaborate breakfast on Sunday mornings. He listened. Really listened when I talked. He asked questions about my art projects and remembered the names of my students when I shared stories from work. Most importantly, he respected my boundaries and encouraged me to stand up for myself even when it was uncomfortable. This Christmas was going to be significant. I planned to bring Drew to meet my family, and we were going to announce our plans to move in together in the spring. Despite the tension that always simmered beneath the surface with my family, I was genuinely excited. I thought maybe having Drew there would change the dynamic, would help them see how much happier and healthier I was now. That's why we were at the mall that day, searching for the perfect gifts for my family members. I had spent weeks thinking about what each person would love. A rare first edition for my dad's book collection, a handcrafted pottery set for my mom's kitchen, specialty coffee beans from that roaster my brother Craig couldn't stop talking about last Easter. And then the text came through, shattering the careful hope I had been nurturing. I don't understand, Drew said after reading the message. Why would they say that? And who's responding with thumbs up? That's my brother, my sister, and my aunt. I said numbly, pointing to each reaction. And they're saying that because they still refuse to call me Jana. To them I'm still Paula, and apparently Paula isn't welcome this Christmas. Drew's face darkened in a way I'd never seen before. He took a deep breath before speaking. Jana, there's something I need to tell you, and I was going to wait until after the holidays, but now. I looked up at him, suddenly afraid. What is it? Your brother Craig called me last week. What? Why would he do that? Drew guided me to a nearby bench, away from the main flow of shoppers. He said he was looking out for you. He told me I should know about your mental health issues before things got serious between us. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. What? He said you had some kind of breakdown after your divorce, that changing your name was part of a delusional phase, and that the family was worried about you getting involved with someone new because you were still fragile. I sat there in stunned silence, the cheerful holiday decorations around us suddenly seeming garish and fake. Not only had my family excluded me from Christmas, but my own brother had gone behind my back to warn my boyfriend that I was crazy. What did you say to him? I finally asked. Drew's expression softened. I told him that the Jana I know is the strongest, most grounded person I've ever met, and that whatever happened in your past was yours to share with me when you felt ready. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them back. I wouldn't cry, not here in this crowded mall 3 days before Christmas. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you right away, Drew continued. I was angry and I wanted to talk to you about it, but then you were so excited about Christmas and meeting everyone, and I didn't want to ruin that for you. I shook my head. You didn't ruin anything. They did. I looked down at my phone again, at the message that had so casually dismissed me from my family's holiday. A cold determination replaced the shock. I need to talk to Craig. I called Craig from the car. Drew had offered to drive, seeing how shaken I was, and I was grateful for the chance to focus on the conversation ahead. Craig answered on the fourth ring, his voice cautious. Hey, what's up? He called Drew last week, I said, not bothering with pleasantries. There was a pause. Oh, he told you about that? Yes, he told me. He also told me what you said, that I had a breakdown, that changing my name was delusional, that I'm fragile. What I want to know is why you would say those things about me, and why you felt the need to warn my boyfriend behind my back. Craig sighed heavily. Look, Paula. Jana. Right, Jana? Sorry. He didn't sound sorry at all. The family is concerned. Okay. You haven't been yourself since the divorce. I've been more myself than I was for the entire time I was married to Tyler. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You completely rewrote your marriage history. You and Tyler were great together. Everyone saw it. I gripped the phone tighter. Everyone saw what Tyler wanted them to see. Mom and Dad asked us to stay to sort of intervention at Christmas. Craig continued, ignoring my comment. They thought it might help if we all expressed our concerns together as a family. But then you said you were bringing your new boyfriend, and we just didn't think it was appropriate to do it with a stranger there. So instead, he decided to exclude me entirely and warn Drew that I'm mentally unstable. No one said mentally unstable, Craig protested. You implied it. And you've been talking about me in a separate group chat for how long? The silence on the other end of the line confirmed my suspicion. How long, Craig? I don't know, a few months maybe. What erratic behavior are you all so concerned about? Give me one concrete example. Another pause. Well, the whole name change thing, for starters. I legally changed my name 2 years ago. Exactly, normal people don't just change their names, Paula. I mean, Jana. Sorry. I could hear the insincerity in his voice. This wasn't about forgetting. This was about refusing to acknowledge my choice. What else? I demanded. You cut people off. You barely speak to Mom and Dad anymore. I call them every Sunday. You've changed how you dress, your hair, your friends. You quit the church choir. You sold the house you and Tyler built together and moved into that tiny apartment downtown. You're not the sister I grew up with. I'm not supposed to be the same person forever, Craig. People grow and change. Look, we just want what's best for you. No, you want me to be who I was before. That person doesn't exist anymore. Before Craig could respond, I got another call. Allison. I have to go. Allison's calling. Paula. Wait. I hung up and answered Allison's call. Hey. Hey yourself, Allison said, her voice falsely bright. Just checking in. You okay? I knew this routine. Allison wasn't really concerned. She wanted gossip details about the drama so she could report back to the rest of the family. I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? Well, after that text from Dad. I just wanted to make sure you weren't upset. Why would you think I'd be upset about being uninvited to Christmas by my own family with my own brother and sister giving it a thumbs up? It's not like that, Allison said quickly. We just thought maybe this year you could use a break from all the family stuff. You know how intense it gets. That's not what Craig said. He said you were planning an intervention. Allison was silent for a moment. He shouldn't have told you that. Why? Because I wasn't supposed to know. You've all been talking about me behind my back, planning to ambush me at Christmas. It wasn't going to be an ambush. We're worried about you. And honestly, Paula, Jana, God fine, Dana. This is exactly what we're talking about. You get so defensive over nothing. It's not nothing. It's my name. Whatever. Look, if you really want to know why Mom and Dad are upset, it's because you refused to go to the Wheaton's holiday party last month. Tyler's parents have always considered you family and you just cut them off like they meant nothing to you. I was momentarily speechless. The Wheatons, Tyler's parents. Why would I go to their holiday party? Tyler and I have been divorced for 2 years. They still care about you. They ask about you all the time. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence as Drew drove us back to my apartment. Something wasn't adding up. I pulled out my phone and began scrolling back through old family messages looking for clues. What I found turned my stomach. Months of conversations about me, about my concerning behavior, about how I needed guidance and support, all couched in terms of care but reeking of control. And something else, references to dinners with Tyler, to events where he was present, to conversations where he was discussed not as my ex-husband, but as a current active part of their lives. Then I saw a photo from just 3 weeks ago. My parents at a restaurant with Tyler, and a woman I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Lovely dinner with Tyler and Amanda. So nice to finally meet her." I zoomed in on the woman's face. Amanda had shoulder-length blonde hair styled in a layered bob, exactly how I used to wear my hair when I was with Tyler. She wore a pearl necklace, similar to one Tyler had given me for our first anniversary. The resemblance was uncanny, not in our facial features but in the styling, the presentation. Tyler had found himself a new Paula. That's when it hit me. My family wasn't just staying in touch with Tyler. They were actively maintaining a relationship with him. And they preferred the old Paula, the version of me that Tyler had crafted, the compliant daughter and wife who never made waves. They wanted me to go back to being that person, maybe even hoped for a reconciliation with Tyler despite his emotional abuse. I felt sick. The next morning I called my mother. I needed answers directly from her, not filtered through my siblings. She answered on the second ring, her voice wary. "Paula, I mean Jana. Sorry, honey. Mom, I want to understand why I'm being excluded from Christmas this year." She sighed heavily. "It's not exclusion, it's consideration. Your father and I think you need more time to heal, and family gatherings can be stressful." "I don't need more time to heal. I'm doing really well, Mom. I've been seeing Dr. Winters regularly. I love my job. I'm in a healthy relationship. Yes, we heard about your new boyfriend." Her tone made it clear what she thought of that development. "His name is Drew, and I'd like for you to meet him. Don't you think it's a bit soon for that?" "It's been 2 years since my divorce, Mom." "Yes, but emotional healing doesn't follow a calendar, Paula." I clenched my teeth at her deliberate use of my old name. "Why are you and Dad still having dinner with Tyler?" The question caught her off guard. "What? I saw the photos, Mom. You and Dad had dinner with Tyler and his new girlfriend 3 weeks ago." "Oh, well. The Wheatons invited us and Tyler happened to be there with Amanda. We've known the Wheatons for years, Paula. We can't just cut them out of our lives because you and Tyler didn't work out." "Didn't work out, Mom. He was emotionally abusive. He controlled every aspect of my life. He isolated me from my friends. He made me doubt my own sanity." "Oh, honey." Her voice dripped with condescension. "Every marriage has its challenges. Tyler admits he wasn't perfect, but he really tried with you. You're the one who gave up and walked away." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So this is my fault." "I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. These things are complicated. But Tyler is practically family. He was part of our lives for 7 years. And I'm your daughter, I should come first. You're not being fair, Paula. We love you very much. We just want what's best for you. And right now we think what's best is for you to take some more time for yourself, instead of rushing into another relationship or causing drama at family gatherings. The conversation went nowhere. My mother was firmly entrenched in her perspective, and nothing I said seemed to penetrate. We ended the call with nothing, resolved her last words a patronizing. "We'll talk after the holidays when you've had time to calm down." Calm down. As if my hurt and anger were just an overreaction, a symptom of my supposed instability. I spent the next hour pacing my apartment trying to process the conversation. Then, without fully thinking it through, I grabbed my car keys and headed to my parents' house. I needed to confront this situation face to face. It was early evening when I pulled into their driveway. The house was decorated for Christmas as always, white lights outlining the roof and windows, the big inflatable snowman my dad put up every year, dominating the front lawn, a wreath with a red bow hanging on the front door. Everything looked exactly as it always had, a perfect picture of holiday cheer and family tradition. I rang the doorbell, heart pounding. My mother answered, her eyes widening in surprise. "Paula, what are you doing here?" I stepped past her into the foyer. "I thought we should finish our conversation in person." "This isn't a good time, honey. We're just sitting down to dinner." That's when I heard a familiar laugh coming from the dining room. Tyler's laugh. I moved before my mother could stop me, walking straight into the dining room. And there they were, my father at the head of the table, my brother Craig to his right, and directly across from Craig, Tyler. The awe froze when I appeared in the doorway. Tyler recovered first, his face settling into a concerned frown that I recognized all too well. It was the expression he used when talking about me to others. His "poor Paula, she's so troubled look." "Paula," my father said, his voice carrying a warning. "What are you doing here?" "It's Jana," I said automatically. "And I came to talk to you and Mom about Christmas, but I see you're busy having dinner with my ex-husband." An awkward silence fell over the room. "We should go," Tyler said, starting to rise. "No, stay," I told him. "I'd love to hear what you all talk about when I'm not around. Do you discuss my mental state, my concerning behavior, the way I gave up on my marriage?" "Paula, you're being hysterical," my father said coldly. "This is exactly why we thought it best for you to skip Christmas this year. Your name changed theatrics, and these emotional outbursts showed you're not ready for family gatherings." "Theatrics? Is that what you think this is? What else would you call it? You had a perfectly good name your entire life, and suddenly after the divorce you can't be Paula anymore. It's concerning behavior." Tyler cleared his throat. "Paula, everyone here cares about you. We're all just worried." "Don't you dare," I cut him off. "Don't you dare sit at my parents' table and pretend you care about me after everything you did." "See, this is what we're talking about," Craig interjected. "These accusations. This anger. This isn't like you, Paula. You don't know who I am," I said. "None of you do. You only know who Tyler told you I was." My mother had entered the dining room behind me. "Honey, after your breakdown." "What breakdown? I never had a breakdown." Tyler's expression was one of practiced patience. "Paula, you know the doctor said you might not remember everything clearly from that period. It was a difficult time. And there it was, the manipulation tactic he had used countless times during our marriage. Gaslighting, making me doubt my own memories, my own experiences." "What doctors?" "I never saw any doctors for a breakdown because I never had one." Tyler exchanged a meaningful look with my parents. It was a look that said, "See what I've been dealing with." "Paula," my father said firmly. "Tyler has been very open with us about how difficult things were at the end. He's told us about finding you crying on the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, about how you would forget entire conversations about the mood swings." I stared at him, horrified. "And you believed him? Without ever asking me?" "He was there, Paula. He lived it. He created it. He would move things around the house and then insist I had moved them. He would tell me we had conversations that never happened. He would criticize me until I broke down crying and then act concerned about my emotional stability." No one at the table looked convinced. They were all watching me with expressions ranging from skepticism to pity. And your new boyfriend is enabling all this, my father continued. Craig told us how defensive he got when he tried to explain your situation. My situation? You mean when Craig called my boyfriend behind my back to tell him I was mentally unstable? Craig at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. I was trying to look out for you. Drew should know what he's getting into. What he's getting into is a relationship with a woman who finally found the strength to leave her abusive husband and build a life that actually makes her happy. I turned to Tyler. What have you been telling them about me? Tyler adopted a sad, concerned expression. Only the truth, Paula. That you struggled after the divorce, that you seemed to have some kind of break with reality. The name changed, the complete personality shift, cutting off friends and family who were only trying to help you. I care about you. I always will. I just want you to get the help you need. I felt like I was drowning. They were all looking at me like I was the problem, like I was broken, delusional. The worst part was how reasonable they all sounded, how concerned. If I didn't know better, I might have started to doubt myself too. But I did know better. 2 years of therapy had given me tools to recognize gaslighting when I encountered it. This was a masterclass. I'm leaving, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. But before I go, I want you all to know that I see what's happening here. Tyler has been manipulating you just like he manipulated me. And you've chosen to believe him over your own daughter and sister. That's a choice you've made. And it's one I won't forget. I walked out, ignoring their calls to come back, to be reasonable, to let them help me. I got in my car and drove away, hands shaking on the steering wheel. It wasn't until I was halfway home that the magnitude of what had just happened hit me. My family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, to have my back no matter what, had sided completely with the man who had systematically broken me down for years. They believed I had had some kind of mental breakdown. They thought I needed help, intervention. They saw me as unstable, delusional. And worst of all, they were actively maintaining a relationship with Tyler, inviting him into their home, listening to his version of events, and treating him like he was still part of the family. I barely remember the drive back to my apartment. When I arrived, I called Dr. Winters, my therapist, and left a message requesting an emergency session. Then I curled up on my couch, pulled a blanket over me, and let the tears come. That's how Drew found me when he came over after receiving my text. He sat beside me, holding me while I sobbed, not asking questions, just being there. When I finally calmed down enough to speak, I told him everything. The confrontation at my parents' house, Tyler's presence there, the allegations of a breakdown. I never had the complete dismissal of my experiences. They think I'm crazy, Drew. My own family. They've been letting Tyler poison them against me for 2 years, and I didn't even know it was happening. Drew's jaw tightened, but his voice remained gentle. You're not crazy, Jana. What they're doing is called gaslighting, and it's a form of abuse. I know. Dr. Winters and I have talked about it a lot. I just never thought my own family would participate in it. What do you want to do? That simple question, acknowledging that I had agency, that I could choose how to respond rather than just react, meant more to me than Drew could possibly know. I don't know yet. I need to talk to Dr. Winters. Whatever you decide, I'm here. But Jana, whatever you do, don't let them make you doubt yourself. You're the strongest person I know. The next day, I met with Dr. Winters. Her office had always been a safe space for me, with its soft blue walls, comfortable chairs, and the gentle sound of a water feature in the corner. Tell me what happened, she said, after I sat down. I recounted everything, the text excluding me from Christmas, the revelations about the separate group chat, Craig contacting Drew, the dinner at my parents' house with Tyler present, all of it. Dr. Winters listened attentively, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she set her notepad aside and leaned forward slightly. Jana, what you're describing is a coordinated campaign of gaslighting. Your ex-husband has manipulated your family into becoming his proxies and continuing the abuse he began during your marriage. Hearing her put it so bluntly was both painful and validating. The question now, she continued, is how you want to respond. This is a significant betrayal by your family, and it would be completely understandable if you needed to create distance for your own well-being. But they're my family, I said, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears. Yes, they are. And in an ideal world, family would provide love, support, and safety. But sometimes family members can become sources of harm, especially when they've been manipulated by someone like your ex-husband. So, you think I should cut them off? I think you need to prioritize your own mental and emotional health. That might mean establishing clear boundaries, limiting contact, or in some cases taking a break from certain relationships until they're able to respect your autonomy and your truth. I nodded slowly. I just keep thinking there must be something I could say, some way I could make them understand. That's a common response, and it's coming from a place of love and hope. But it's important to recognize that you can't control how others perceive you or what they choose to believe. You can only control your own actions and boundaries. I left Dr. Winter's office feeling emotionally drained but also strangely calmer. The validation from a professional that I wasn't overreacting, that what my family was doing was a continuation of the abuse I had escaped, helped me see the situation more clearly. Back at my apartment, I felt restless. I needed to do something, to take some kind of action rather than just sitting with these painful revelations. I decided to look through some of my old journals, something Dr. Winters had encouraged me to keep throughout my divorce and recovery process. I pulled out the stack of notebooks from my closet and began reading entries from the last year of my marriage and the months following the divorce. What I found was heartbreaking but also empowering. Page after page documented Tyler's manipulation. Subtle put-downs disguised as concern, misremembered conversations, accusations of forgetfulness or emotional instability whenever I questioned him. But I also found entries about friends who had seen through Tyler's facade, who had tried to warn me or offer support. Friends I had gradually lost touch with, as Tyler isolated me. Friends like Tara, my college roommate, who had once taken me aside at a party and gently suggested that Tyler's behavior seemed controlling. I had defended him, then convinced that Tara just didn't understand our relationship. Shortly after, Tyler had convinced me that Tara was jealous of our happiness and I had pulled away from her. There were other entries too, documenting how my family had always seemed to take Tyler's side in disagreements, how they had dismissed my concerns about his controlling behavior as newlywed adjustment, or suggested that I needed to try harder to make him happy. The pattern was clear. Tyler hadn't just manipulated me during our marriage. He had been cultivating my family as allies the entire time. And when I finally left him, he simply continued the manipulation, casting himself as the concerned ex-husband, worried about his unstable ex-wife. But the journals also showed my growth, my gradual reclaiming of my identity, my hard work in therapy. They showed how changing my name had been a thoughtful, empowering choice, a way to reclaim my identity after years of having it systematically eroded. As I read, I found something else too. Emails Tyler had sent to my parents in the months following our separation. Emails I had been copied on, but had never opened, too raw from the divorce to want any contact with him. I logged into my old email account and found them. What I read made my blood boil. Email after email, expressing concern about my mental state, references to incidents that never happened, subtle suggestions that I needed help and support, implications that I was unstable and potentially a danger to myself. In one particularly manipulative email, Tyler had written, "I'm worried about Paula's recent behavior. She's been talking about becoming a new person and leaving Paula behind." These kinds of dissociative statements concern me, and I thought, as her parents, you should be aware. I still cared deeply for her, and only want what's best for her, even if that isn't being with me. It was all there, the seeds planted, the narrative, crafted, the groundwork laid for 2 years of my family, treating me like I was broken and stable, in need of intervention rather than support. The realization was painful but clarifying. My family wasn't just misguided or confused. They were active participants in my ongoing abuse. They had chosen Tyler's constructed version of me over the real me standing right in front of them. They had chosen to believe the worst about their own daughter and sister rather than consider that her ex-husband might be manipulating them. As the full weight of this betrayal settled on me, I knew I had a choice to make. I could continue trying to make them see the truth, to convince them of Tyler's manipulation, or I could accept that they had made their choice and focus my energy on building a life with people who respected and supported me. For the first time since receiving that text 3 days before Christmas, I felt a sense of clarity. I couldn't control what my family believed, but I could control who I allowed to be part of my life moving forward. The next morning, I wake up with a plan forming in my mind. First, I needed to reconnect with the people who had seen the truth about Tyler and had tried to support me even when I pushed them away. I started with Tara. We hadn't spoken in nearly 4 years, not since Tyler had convinced me she was trying to undermine our marriage. I found her on social media and sent a simple message. "You were right about Tyler. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'd love to talk if you're open to it." To my surprise and relief, Tara responded within hours. "Jana, I've thought about you so often. Of course I'm open to talking. How about coffee tomorrow?" We met at a small cafe downtown. The moment I saw her, tears sprang to my eyes. Tara wrapped me in a tight hug. "I've missed you," she said simply. Over the next 2 hours, I told her everything. The emotional abuse during my marriage, the difficult divorce, changing my name to Jana, and now my family's betrayal and continued relationship with Tyler. Tara listened without judgment, occasionally squeezing my hand in support. When I finished, she shared something that shocked me. "Jana, I went through something similar with my family after I came out as gay in college. They didn't believe me at first, thought it was a phase, or that I'd been influenced by liberal friends. They even tried to send me to conversion therapy." "You had no idea," I said. "He never told me. It was hard to talk about back then. But the reason I'm telling you now is that I had to make the difficult decision to create distance between me and my family for several years. It was painful but necessary for my own health and identity. And eventually some of them came around. Not all, but some." "How did you do it? How did you find the strength to stand up to your entire family?" "By building my own support system, my chosen family. Friends who accepted me exactly as I was, who didn't try to change me or convince me I was confused. That's what got me through." As we continued talking, Tara offered to introduce me to some of her friends who had gone through similar experiences with family estrangement and rebuilding. "It helps to talk to people who really get it," she said. "Who understand that sometimes the hardest part isn't the person who directly hurt you, but the people who stand by and let it happen, or even join in." After coffee with Tara, I felt stronger, more resolved. I scheduled another session with Dr. Winters to discuss healthy boundaries and strategies for emotional independence from my family. She helped me see that my worth wasn't dependent on their validation, and that protecting myself from their harmful behavior wasn't selfish, it was necessary. A few days later, Drew invited me to join his family for their Christmas celebration. "You don't have to decide right now," he said. "But my parents really want to meet you, and my sisters are cool. It's pretty low-key, just dinner, some games, opening presents on Christmas morning if you want to stay over." The contrast between Drew's casual, pressure-free invitation and my own family's manipulation was stark. Here was someone who respected my agency, who offered connection without demands or conditions. "I'd love to come," I said. "But I'm also thinking about hosting my own small gathering on Christmas Eve. Would you be up for that too?" Drew's face lit up. "Absolutely. What are you thinking?" "Just something simple. Invite Tara and some of the friends I'm reconnecting with. Maybe a few people from work. Create some new traditions that are just mine. Ours if you want to be part of it." "I'd be honored," Drew said. That evening, I started making plans for my alternative Christmas celebration. As I was creating a guest list, I thought about my extended family members, cousins, aunts, uncles who weren't part of the immediate family group chat. I wondered how many of them knew about the situation, how many had been fed Tyler's narrative about me. On impulse, I decided to reach out to my cousin Laura, who had always been kind to me at family gatherings but with whom I'd lost touch in recent years. "Hey Laura," I messaged. "It's been a while. I wanted to let you know I won't be at the family Christmas this year. Also, I go by Jana now, though you might not have heard that." Laura's response came quickly. "Jana, I've been thinking about you. I actually left the family group chat months ago because I couldn't stand how they were talking about you. Want to grab lunch and catch up?" I stared at her message in shock. Laura had left the group chat because of how they were talking about me. I immediately called her. "What do you mean you left the group chat?" I asked as soon as she answered. "Oh, Jana. I didn't want to cause drama, but the way they discussed you was awful. Like you were a problem to be solved rather than a person going through a difficult time. And the way they kept letting Tyler weigh in about you. It made me so uncomfortable." "You knew about that?" "Yes. I tried to speak up a few times to point out that Maybe they should be talking to you rather than about you, but no one listened. So I left. I figured either they'd notice and reflect on why, or they wouldn't notice, which would tell me everything I needed to know about that group dynamic. And no one even asked why I left, Laura said with a sad laugh. That told me everything. Laura and I made plans to meet for lunch the following day. Before we hung up, she added, "By the way, I heard you're having your own Christmas thing. I'd love to come if that's okay." Of course, I said, feeling a surge of gratitude. Over the next few days, a surprising thing happened. After my lunch with Laura, where we reconnected and she heard the full story of what had been happening, she reached out to a few other family members who weren't closely aligned with my parents. Cousins, a few aunts and uncles, even my youngest sister Megan, who at 22 was just establishing her own independent life and identity. One by one they contacted me. Some just wanted to check in. Others expressed support or apologized for not staying in better touch. Many accepted my invitation to my Christmas Eve gathering. Not everyone, of course. Some were firmly in my parents' camp, were simply unwilling to take sides in what they saw as a family dispute. But enough responded positively that I began to feel something I hadn't expected: hope. Hope that even if my immediate family couldn't accept me as I was, I could still have meaningful connections with my extended family. Hope that I wasn't alone in seeing the toxicity of what had been happening. Megan's response was particularly meaningful. My youngest sister had always been somewhat overshadowed in the family, the baby who wasn't always taken seriously. We had never been especially close growing up, with our 8-year age difference creating a natural distance. But her message showed a maturity and independence I hadn't expected. "Jana," she wrote, "I'm sorry I haven't reached out sooner. To be honest, I've been confused about everything that's happened with you and the family. But I know that changing your name was important to you, and I want to respect that. I'd like to come to your Christmas Eve thing if that's okay. I want to hear your side of things." As Christmas Eve approached, my alternative celebration took shape. 20 people had accepted my invitation, a mix of old friends. I was reconnecting with new friends from work: Drew and a couple of his friends, and several family members who were choosing to support me, despite pressure to conform to the official family narrative. It wasn't the Christmas I had imagined when I'd been excitedly shopping for gifts for my immediate family just a week earlier. It was something entirely new, something I was creating on my own terms. And despite the pain that had led to it, I found myself looking forward to it with genuine anticipation. Christmas Eve arrived crisp and clear, with just enough snow on the ground to make everything look festive. Drew came over early to help me set up for the gathering. We had decided to host it at my apartment, which wasn't large but could comfortably fit the 20 people who had RSVP'd with some creative furniture arrangement. "I still can't believe how many people are coming," I said as we hung lights around the living room. "I can," Drew replied. "You're pretty amazing, Jana Matthews. People want to be around you." I smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the mulled cider simmering on the stove. In the midst of this family crisis, I had discovered how many people truly cared about me. Not the version of me that Tyler had constructed, or my family wanted me to be, but the real me, Jana. Guests began arriving at 6. Tara came first, bringing a friend named Marcus, who had experienced similar family dynamics. Then came colleagues from work, friends of Drew's, my cousin Laura, and her husband, and gradually more extended family members. The atmosphere was relaxed and joyful, with none of the tension that had characterized family gatherings in recent years. We shared food, exchanged small gifts, and told stories. No one called me Paula, no one questioned my choices, or treated me like I was fragile or unstable. Around 8 o'clock there was another knock at the door. When I opened it, I found my Aunt Susan standing there looking nervous. "Aunt Susan," I said, surprised. "I thought you were going to my parents' party." The thumbs up she had given to my exclusion from the family Christmas was still fresh in my mind. I did earlier. She fidgeted with her purse strap. "But I couldn't stop thinking about you, Jana." She emphasized my name deliberately. "I'm sorry about that thumbs up. I didn't really think about how hurtful it would be. I just went along with what everyone else was doing." "Why are you here now?" I asked, not ready to simply accept her apology and move on. "There's a family emergency meeting happening at your parents' house about the Paula situation. They're all there, your parents, Craig, Allison, and..." She hesitated. "Tyler finished for her." She nodded. Yes. And I just couldn't sit there anymore and listen to them talk about you like you're a problem to be solved, rather than a person to be respected. So, I left. I studied her face looking for signs of deception or manipulation. Finding none, I stepped back. Would you like to come in? She nodded gratefully. If that's okay. Of course. There's plenty of food and we're just about to start a game. As Susan integrated into the gathering, I pulled Drew aside and told him about the emergency meeting happening at my parents' house. What are you thinking? He asked, knowing me well enough by now to recognize the look on my face. I'm thinking I'm tired of being talked about instead of talked to. I'm thinking I want to confront this situation head-on once and for all. Drew nodded slowly. Do you want company? Yes, I said without hesitation. You and maybe Tara if she's willing. I could use the support. Tara agreed immediately when I asked her. He shouldn't have to face that alone. And sometimes it helps to have witnesses who aren't emotionally involved with your family. I let the rest of the gathering know I needed to step out for a bit but encouraged everyone to continue enjoying themselves. Then Drew, Tara and I got into Drew's car and drove to my parents' house. The familiar Christmas decorations seemed almost mocking now. As we approached the front door, I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. My mother answered, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw me. Paula, what are you doing here? It's Jana, Mom, and I heard there was a meeting about me. I thought I should be present for that. Before she could respond, I walked past her into the house, Drew and Tara following. We made our way to the living room where the emergency meeting was indeed in progress. My father sat in his usual armchair with Craig and Allison on the couch across from him. Tyler occupied the other armchair, my mother's usual seat, I noted with a flash of anger. They all looked up in shock when we entered. What is this? My father demanded, rising to his feet. I heard you were having a meeting about the Paula situation, I said calmly. Since I am Paula, or rather I thought I should be here. Tyler's face settled into that concerned frown I had come to despise. Paula, this isn't a good idea. You're clearly upset, and barging in like this only confirms what we've been discussing about your erratic behavior. My name is Jana, I said firmly. And I'm not barging in. This is my family's home and you're discussing me behind my back. Again, who are these people? My father asked, gesturing to Drew and Terry. This is Drew, my boyfriend. And this is Tara, my friend. They're here as my support and as witnesses to whatever is being said about me in my absence. Witnesses, Craig scoffed. This isn't a trial, Paula. Isn't it? You've all been judging me, making decisions about me, diagnosing me all without my input or consent? It feels pretty similar to a trial. We're concerned about you, my mother said, having followed us into the room. This kind of dramatic entrance only reinforces that concern. What exactly are you concerned about? I asked. Be specific. They exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with being put on the spot. Your emotional state, my father finally said. Your identity confusion, your hostility toward Tyler and toward us. I'm not confused about my identity. I legally changed my name to Jana 2 years ago. It wasn't a whim or a cry for help. It was a deliberate choice to reclaim my identity after years of emotional abuse. There you go again with these accusations, Tyler said, his voice dripping with false patience. Paula, we were married for 7 years. Was it perfect? No. Did I always get everything right? Of course not. But this narrative you've created about abuse is deeply unfair and frankly concerning. I looked at him directly. Tyler, I have read through all the emails you sent to my parents after our separation. I know exactly what narrative you've been creating. A flicker of unease crossed his face before he controlled it. I was worried about you. I still am. No. You were manipulating my family to continue controlling me even after I left you. Just like he tried to control me during our marriage. That's enough, my father interjected. Tyler has been nothing but supportive through all of this. He's still willing to help you despite how you've treated him. Help me. Help me what? Go back to being the compliant, insecure woman he shaped me into. No thank you. See, this is exactly what we're talking about, Allison said. This anger, these accusations. The Paula I grew up with was never like this. The Paula you grew up with didn't know how to stand up for herself, I replied. She didn't know how to set boundaries or demand respect. Jana does. The conversation continued in circles with my family members, and Tyler presenting a united front of concern and disappointment, while I tried to make them see the manipulation at play. Drew and Tara occasionally spoke up to offer support or perspective, but mostly they were silent witnesses. Their presence alone, a reminder that I wasn't isolated anymore. As the discussion grew more heated with my father accusing me of throwing away my family over petty grievances, and my mother alternating between tears and condescension, the front door opened again. Megan, my youngest sister, walked in, stopping short when she saw all of us in the living room. "What's going on?" she asked. "Why is everyone yelling?" "Megan, go to your room," my father said. "This doesn't concern you." "If it's about Jana, it concerns me," she replied, surprising everyone with her firmness. "She's my sister too." "This is an adult conversation," my mother said. "We're trying to help your sister, and she's being uncooperative." Megan looked at me, then at Tyler, then back at me. "Why is he here?" she asked, pointing at Tyler. "He's not family." "Tyler has been very helpful in giving us insight into Jana's state of mind," my father explained. "He lived with her for 7 years. He knows her better than anyone." "Does he?" Megan challenged. "Because from what I remember, he spent those 7 years telling her who she should be, rather than getting to know who she actually was." A stunned silence fell over the room. No one had expected this from Megan, who had always been the quiet one, the peacekeeper. Tyler recovered first. "Megan, I understand you want to support her sister, but you don't have all the facts. Paula has been struggling with some serious issues." "It's Jana," Megan interrupted. "And I think I have more facts than you realize." She turned to face our parents. "Did you know that Tyler tried to get me to spy on Jana for him after they separated? He would text me asking what she was doing, who she was seeing. When I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, he started implying that if I really cared about my sister, I would help him keep an eye on her." I stared at my sister in shock. "He did what?" Megan nodded. "I should have told you sooner, but I didn't want to add to your stress during the divorce. And to be honest, I was a little afraid of getting in the middle of it all." "You were 17, I said. "He shouldn't have had to deal with any of that." "This is ridiculous," Tyler said, but there was a new tension in his voice. "I was worried about Paula Jana and asked Megan to let me know if she noticed anything concerning. That's all." "That's not all," Megan insisted. "He told me that if Jana started acting erratic or talking about changing her name, I should tell you immediately because it might mean she was having a psychological break." He was setting the groundwork, I realized aloud. Planting the seeds of the narrative he wanted everyone to believe. My mother looked uncertainly between Tyler and Megan. "Is this true, Tyler?" For the first time, Tyler looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I was concerned, Catherine. You know how Paula was at the end of our marriage." "No, we don't know," I said firmly. "We only know what you told them. And what you told them was a carefully constructed lie designed to maintain control over me and my family even after I left you." I turned to face my family directly. "I am not having a breakdown. I did not have a breakdown 2 years ago. I am not unstable or delusional or confused about my identity. I am a woman who finally found the courage to leave an emotionally abusive relationship and reclaim my sense of self. Part of that was changing my name to Jana. A name that holds meaning for me. A name that represents strength and autonomy." I took a deep breath before continuing. "I have spent 2 years rebuilding myself, creating a life that makes me happy, establishing healthy boundaries, and learning to trust my own perceptions again after years of having them undermined. And what have you all been doing during that time? Maintaining a relationship with my abuser. Allowing him to continue manipulating you. Treating me like I'm broken rather than seeing that I'm finally whole." The room was silent when I finished. No one seemed to know how to respond. Finally, my father spoke. "Jana, I think you should leave now." The use of my chosen name wasn't lost on me, but it was too little too late. "I agree," I said. "I've said what I came to say. The rest is up to you. You can choose to believe Tyler's version of me, or you can choose to get to know the real me. But you can't have both." I walked out with Drew and Tara, Megan following close behind. Outside in the cold December air, I felt lighter somehow, as if a burden I'd been carrying for years had finally been set down. "Are you okay?" Drew asked as we reached his car. "I am," I said, and realized it was true. For the first time in a long time, I really am. We returned to my apartment to find the Christmas Eve gathering still in full swing. People greeted us warmly, asking no questions about where we'd been, simply welcoming us back into the celebration. As I looked around at the mix of old friends, new friends, and family members who had chosen to support me, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. This was what family could be: people who accepted you as you were, who respected your boundaries and choices. He showed up for you not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter, good food, and heartfelt conversations. When everyone had gone home except Drew, who was staying over, I felt exhausted but peaceful. "Thank you," I said as we cleaned up the last of the dishes. "For everything." "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "I'm just glad I could be here for you. I know tonight wasn't the Christmas Eve either of us imagined having." Drew smiled. "Maybe not. But in some ways it was better. More real." I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. The evening had been authentic in a way that family gatherings rarely were. No pretense, no walking on eggshells, just genuine connection. Christmas Day brought a new tradition: breakfast with Drew, then dinner with his family. His parents welcomed me warmly. His sisters teased him in a way that was affectionate rather than cutting, and no one asked intrusive questions about my family situation. In the days that followed, I received a mix of responses from my immediate family. My father sent a terse email saying he needed time to process everything. My mother called twice, leaving voicemails that oscillated between apology and defensiveness. Craig remained silent. Allison sent a text that simply read, "I'm sorry. Things got so messy." None of them directly addressed the revelations about Tyler's manipulation, or their own complicity in it. None of them acknowledged the harm they had done by excluding me from Christmas, by discussing me behind my back, by believing Tyler over me. But, at least they were using my name, Jana, not Paula, in their communications. It was a small step, but a significant one. Megan, on the other hand, made a point of staying in touch. We met for coffee several times in the weeks after Christmas, gradually building a relationship as adults, rather than just sisters separated by age and circumstances. "I always looked up to you," she confessed during one of our conversations. "Even when everyone else was saying you were going through a rough patch or having a breakdown, I could see how much stronger you seemed after leading Tyler." "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked gently. She shrugged. "I was still living at home. Still financially dependent on Mom and Dad. And, to be honest, I didn't have the confidence back then to stand up to everyone. And now," Megan smiled, "now I'm learning. From you, actually. Seeing you set boundaries, refuse to be gaslighted, stand in your truth even when it would be easier to go along with what everyone wants from you. It's inspiring, Jana. Really." 6 months after that tumultuous Christmas, my relationship with my immediate family remained strained but was slowly evolving. My father had finally agreed to meet with me one-on-one without my mother present, without Tyler's influence hovering in the background. It was a difficult conversation full of old patterns and defenses, but by the end there was a tacit acknowledgement that things needed to change if we were to have any relationship at all. My mother was finding it harder to adjust. Years of believing Tyler's narrative about me had calcified her perception, and she struggled to see me clearly. But she was trying in her way, making small efforts to respect my boundaries and acknowledge my autonomy. Craig eventually reached out, offering an awkward apology for calling Drew behind my back. It wasn't a complete acknowledgement of his role in the family dynamics, but it was a start. Allison remained the most distant, uncomfortable with the disruption to the family system, and unwilling to examine her part in it. As for Tyler, I heard through Megan that he was no longer welcome at family gatherings. The revelations about his attempts to manipulate her had been the final straw for my parents, forcing them to reconsider everything else I had been saying about him. Meanwhile, my life with Drew was flourishing. We moved in together as planned, creating a home that felt safe, supportive, and joy-filled. My reconnection with old friends like Tara continued to deepen, and I made new friends through work and community activities. The alternative Christmas gathering became the first of many such events, as I began hosting regular dinners and celebrations that included my chosen family, both blood relations and those connected by choice and affinity. 1 year after that life-changing text message, Drew proposed. We were having a picnic in the park where we'd had our first date, and his words were simple and heartfelt. "Jana Matthews, you are the strongest, most authentic person I know. Will you marry me? I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was small but meaningful, held in a garden with autumn leaves creating a natural canopy of red and gold above us. Tara was my maid of honor. Megan was a bridesmaid along with 2 colleagues who had become close friends. My father walked me down the aisle, a traditional gesture that held new meaning now, symbolizing not a transfer of ownership from father to husband, but a gesture of respect and reconciliation. My mother attended, still somewhat uncomfortable with the new family dynamics but making an effort. Craig came with his wife. Allison sent a gift but didn't attend, not yet ready to fully engage with the new reality. As I looked around at the gathering during our reception, the mix of family members who were working to rebuild relationships with me, friends who had supported me through the darkest times, and new connections made along the way, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey from Paula to Jana hadn't been easy. It had cost me relationships, forced me to confront painful truths, and required me to stand firm in my identity even when those closest to me refused to acknowledge it. But it had also brought me to this moment surrounded by genuine love, secure in myself, no longer afraid to set boundaries or speak my truth. In the end, that text message excluding me from Christmas had been a gift, though a painful one. It had forced into the open dynamics that had been festering beneath the surface for years. It had compelled me to take a stand, to refuse to be gaslighted or manipulated any longer. It had shown me who would stand with me when things got difficult, and who would choose comfort over truth. Most importantly, it had confirmed what I already knew deep down, that changing my name from Paula to Jana wasn't just about leaving behind a painful marriage. It was about claiming my right to define myself, to set my own boundaries, to live authentically, even when others found it inconvenient or challenging. As Drew and I shared our first dance as a married couple, I caught my father's eye across the room. He nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement, and perhaps a bit of apology. I nodded back,